This is John Reeves, and welcome to the Truth as Medicine podcast. We acknowledge that we gather in Pasadena on the homelands of the Tongva people, also known historically as the Gabrielino, and by some as Cuz. In particular, we honor the Jajamangna community whose village and homelands are centered along the Arroyo Seco and who continue their relationship with this place. We pay respect to Tongva elders and relatives, past, present, and emerging, and we commit to learning from and acting in reciprocity with the indigenous communities who steward these lands and waters. Welcome to the Truth as Medicine podcast. This is your host, John Reeves, and I have a very special guest with me this evening, Martina Moves Camp, one of my closest friends. And Martina, so as I understand, you are, I want to get the title right, an exceptional education transition specialist.
Yes.
Working with the Crazy Horse School. Is that right?
Yes.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit about your background. Give us a little bit of a bio.
Well, I feel like it took me a long time to get to where I am. Obviously, everybody has their own story and how where they feel comfortable professionally. I feel like it took me a long time to degree because I knew I wanted to help people, but I also was very afraid to do it because my dad is in that field of helping people. I think a lot of people in our family are kind of born into being people helpers and just taking on that role organically. I was so afraid because I feel like I'm very sensitive, and I sometimes feel like I'm not strong enough to hold that type of title and a role in my community. So it took me a very long time to get to where I am. And I got a degree in social work, and that opened my eyes. Was definitely naive because my parents, both growing up, they've seen what alcoholism has done to their families and their experience. So they kept us very sheltered, which was good and bad, because good that we didn't have to witness a lot of like terrible things that alcoholism and substance abuse has on families on the reservation. And then at the same time bad because a lot of things that I grew up with, it wasn't as shocking. So when I graduated, or when I was going through my practicum of social work, I did it with the CPS department for our tribe. And mainly all the cases that I shadowed on were sexual abuse cases, and they range from like 2 to 17. And just, I guess, hearing the stories and knowing how the kids got into the CPS services was so tough. And knowing that our people didn't really have a lot of foster homes that our kids could go into. And a lot of the foster homes that were open to our kids, they also had preferences because they wanted to keep their families safe. So some wouldn't be open to boys and some wouldn't be open to girls, which is totally understandable. But it just limited, and it made my scope of how I view things a lot broader. When I see people say like, why do they foster our kids off of native land and into non-native communities? At the same time, I used to be that naive person that used to think that too, because of my experience and how limited we are with foster care homes and resources for our kids. There is no other way. And people who often say those things are not like opening their homes either. I don't think we should always like judge or like make those assumptions unless we actually put ourselves in those places and opened our homes to those types of, be that resource and be that safe place for our kids. But it definitely ruined for a little bit, my faith in humanity. Like I needed to restore it. So I kind of like took a long way around to get to where I am. I did a lot of research work and worked for Great Plains Tribal Chairman's Health Board and worked with Lakota Circles of Hope with Catholic Social Services and worked with Dr. Warren with Oregon Health Science Universities. I feel like I just wanted so much more from career experience and professionalism. I wanted to be able to get every experience. And I feel like I wouldn't have been able to do so much if it wasn't for me getting a degree at Oglala Lakota College, because I feel like that kicked open the door for me too, because it was like, okay, she has a degree and she's able to do this. I use that as my ticket to kind of climb the ladder of professions and just being able to experience all of the things that were in my path. I took every advantage. And so every job that I had, I made sure that I did the best job that I could do and get the best experience from that. But I do think that it did restore my faith in humanity. I feel like I had to not look at every situation or just be like doubtful of someone's intentions and just believe that there are good people out there that want to be helpful to our people and that would not take advantage of others. So I feel like all the things that got to me to where I am professionally were definitely those moments of like making me feel like, okay, I could trust a male being a mentor. I could trust these people who are going into these communities and asking them about ACEs, like the adverse childhood effect, like questions, because we're asking vulnerable people all these questions about their past and how their upbringing attributes to the disparities that they might have been experiencing because of generational alcoholism or seeing physical or sexual abuse or experiencing those things. I feel like it really made me stronger, and then to be able to work with kids in a school setting. And so when I started to work at Crazier School, it was so like such a big deal to me. And people were probably like, oh, it's just another school job. No, it was huge because I will probably be sitting in front of somebody with that's going to tell me about their sexual abuse or their physical abuse or the types of things that they were struggling with to keep them in school or to keep them focused. And I always tell them, I know I'm not asking you to be at a 100%. I'm just asking you to be at a 75. And so even when they come to me after just having a major meltdown with me in my office and then just saying, oh, Martina, like I got like a B in science, and those little victories are what make me feel better about the job that I have. So when I first started to work at Crazy Horse, I was called a student advocate because I didn't really have my social work certifications. I was able to be a mentor or just an advisor, just like somebody who was consistent in students' lives. And I felt like I definitely grew in that role. And I feel like it definitely taught me so much more about myself and how much I can handle and how much I can be strong for somebody else and not feel so set. Like I'm sensitive as if like I could hear them and letting them know that I'm present at the moment, and then just being what I have to be for them, being their safe person, making those connections that I have to call the cops or take a kid to the emergency room with suicidal ideations. All those things that are tough, you have to do. And I always think the back of my mind is like the choices that you make for these kids, you have to be the adult. You have to be the person who is making that tough call. Even though the student is begging you, like, please, Martina, don't say anything or don't tell or anything. But if I didn't, then I would not be helping you truly. So it took a long time. And I was in that student advocate role for like 6 academic years, I would say. And I learned to just survive on chaos and caffeine. I was able to teach classes within the high school and just grow those connections with students and being present, allowing them to see me in the hallway, allowing them to message me early in the morning at 5:30, and they'll ask, Martina, can I see you when you get to the school? I'm like, of course. Anytime the students just knew they can just reach out and then I'll be there. But it definitely took like a long time for me to get to be comfortable, to have those uncomfortable conversations. And so, there was an opportunity to become or to work within exceptional education and to work with kids in the transition program, which is helping high school students learn job placement, like having work experience and helping them plan their future. And they have like a set of challenges already, having different learning disabilities and little faith in their abilities. And sometimes you have to help them create those confidence, just being an advocate for themselves and just learning how to speak up and being able to talk to adults like an adult. showing them that like you're strong enough or you're capable enough to just talk to your teacher, talk to the principal, talk to the superintendent, and ask the tough questions for yourself. Just being that person and helping figure out what they want to do after high school, I feel like that's also rewarding. And I also see different kids as well. And in elementary, I think that the most challenging is working with elementary. It's challenging because they have already learning disabilities, but I feel like it takes a long time for them to trust you and then to have a meltdown, but then get back on track. With high school students, you could just be straightforward and they understand you. They know what you're saying. But with elementary kids, you have to be very animated, be very like visual, do all the things. And if you look at my career path and I've just went from a job to job, it was because I felt like every time I got fulfilled from a job, I moved on to the next. But this time I really had to grow patience and learn how to be present with that student as long as they needed me. I feel like I could tolerate a lot more with the kids because when I'm at the school, I always say my time is their time. And it really is. Sometimes I just come home and just watch a show, a comfort show, and then go to sleep and then do it all over again.
Interesting, because that's my life also.
Yeah.
People always ask, what are your hobbies? What are you doing? I like working. I genuinely enjoy coming and dealing with the issues of the day and then going home and crashing out. But that is interesting. So, and we covered a whole bunch of ground there. And
Yeah.
this is why I love that you just throw it out there because we can just jump into it. So, you are working for Crazy Horse School in Wambly, South Dakota, on the
Yes.
Pine Ridge Indian Reservation.
Yes.
How big is that school? Like, how many kids? I mean, you mentioned high school and elementary.
Yeah, it's a K-12 school. So it'll have like oh, a little over 250 and a little under 300 students.
And for those of you that are unaware, we're talking about the state of South Dakota here. 250 students in a school is one of the larger classifications. So, aren't you guys like a mid-level school as far as population is concerned?
We probably are, but we're definitely are on the lower side. For a K-12, we are on the smaller side because we have Little Wound who has like a huge, huge student population. And I think also Pine Ridge. And I'm not sure if Red Cloud has a K-12, but yeah, I feel like we're on the lower end of the student population.
And is it just like a public school, or is it funded by the tribe? Is it funded by the state? Is it funded by the feds?
I think it's funded by BIE.
Okay, interesting. Awesome. So is that the only school around your area? Like, what is the encatchment area? Like, where do you pull children from?
A lot of our kids are bused in from local or smaller communities around us. We have a bus that comes from the next reservation. I call them our time travelers because the Rosebud Reservation is an hour ahead. When they come over, they're losing an hour. And then when they get home, they're gaining an hour. So bless those kids that come in from all that way. But our bus goes all the way through several small communities on that reservation. And then Martin, South Dakota and Kyle and all those little towns in between. So we definitely service a bunch of smaller communities around Wambly, and we are the last town on the western or eastern side of the reservation.
Really? Ah, okay. So that means do you have kids that are non-native that are going to the school at Crazy Horse?
Yes.
Awesome. That's kind of an interesting dynamic. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Currently, we do have Filipino teachers. Yeah, because it's across the nation. We have a shortage of teachers. We have a lot of really awesome and just beautiful people that have come here from the Philippines and that are mainly teach K through 6, but we have a few in the middle school and high school area. My uncle married a Filipino into the culture and everything. So, oh my God, I love how they're so proud of their heritage and their religion and all that stuff. Just like my auntie. My auntie talks very aggressively. She is super cute. And I just love our teachers that come to be with us and to help teach our kids. I sit in a lot of their classes and it just makes me feel good, like how much they value their teaching and how much that they value what they're doing with the kids and their belief in them. It makes me feel good. So yeah, we have a lot of Filipino teachers here and their children come to school here too. So
Do you have a Filipino cook by chance? Because they have some of the best food, I think, in the world. That
I feel like
onset,
all of them, yeah.
it is. I thoroughly enjoy going back and forth from Hawaii, and there's a very large Filipino community over there. And yeah, the food is amazing. So you talked a little bit in your introduction about your dad. Can you enlighten everybody as to who your dad is and what he does? And then I'd be interested in understanding what it was like growing up in a household with your dad.
Sure. My father is Richard Moves Camp, and is uh he teaches classes, he teaches college courses as well as being a medicine man in our community or for our family. So growing up, we just knew ceremonies and we were always exposed to people coming to see my dad. And it wasn't just for ceremonies, it was just for like counseling and just being a good relative and my dad just being present. I think that's one of the things that kind of scared me because my dad had to be called upon to, like if somebody committed suicide or if there was like a really tragic event that happened within our community, he was somebody who they called upon to be present. And so he definitely it's much more than just someone who has ceremony for people. It's his role is so much bigger than what you read about medicine men or what you expect from them. And because we grew up in this way and like in going to ceremonies and hearing Lakota language being spoken all the time in your home and people coming in their most vulnerable and pitiful state, like they just need somebody. I think that has a heaviness to it and it takes a stronger person to be able to help others, but then also be a father. He would also travel to go do more advocacy for our tribe, for our community education wise. So he was somebody who did Indian Child Welfare Act and for education as well. He has a lot of roles. He did a lot of advocating and he was a strong speaker and just really good at talking to others about our culture and inviting them in and allowing others to feel welcome and for us to always be that way too. And then knowing that you can never really relax when you're home because you know somebody's going to come or somebody's going to show up. He's always at sweat or ceremony or doing something for others. And we grew up more with our mom being present. So she had to be a strong mom, making sure that she was also there helping be the father figure too for us because you know my dad had 5 girls and 1 boy and we're learning how to make sweats. Us the daughters or my sisters and I, we learned how to make sweat, we learned how to chop wood, we learned how to haul rocks, and we do all the tough things because that's what my mom always did. And in ceremony, all the things that you have to do is all physical. So just those things, it's natural to us. But as I grew up, it wasn't natural to other people. So they were like, well, what do you do? What's a tobacco tie? What is this? And it's like, when you explain those things, like what a tobacco tie is and what sweat lodge is and what a sun dance is and what protocols have to happen. And sometimes people are like, why though? Why do you do that? We have to just be the advocates too for our culture and tell them why we have to do these things and why it's important. When I was younger, I definitely did not have the patience to explain how come and the whys because I'm like, man, we are all Lakota. We all grew up here. How do you not know your culture? But as I got older, I understand that because of generational trauma of like alcoholism and other substance abuses, a lot of them just didn't have that growing up and having that connection to our culture and to being able to pray. My mom said when you grow up in the church, you just know that you pray every Sunday. Like you go to church and you pray there. But in Lakota culture, you learn that Tukashila, the creator, is everywhere, that you could pray anywhere and he hears you. And like driving down the road or always encouraging us to like pray and to always be thankful and to always be respectful. In a way, we did grow up like we had to follow a lot more rules traditionally than other people. And then other people could make mistakes, but you definitely couldn't because you lived in a traditional glass house and you couldn't really make mistakes. And because everybody knew who your dad was and everybody knew who your mom was, and you live in a um, home where you don't drink or you don't do alcohol, or you have to live in a very, as they say, like red road. You live in that traditional life where you don't participate in any of those things. And if you did, it was definitely frowned upon, or you definitely were going to get told. Just having those teenage experiences were hard because you were always being watched all the time. So you definitely learned when we were older about that type of lifestyle. And I do also think that we were sheltered from that because our parents knew what happened at those types of parties or at, indulging in things with unfamiliar people. So it was hard. It was definitely tricky. And you definitely had a lot more expectations. There's people who say, well, is it kind of like you're a preacher's daughter? And I'm like, yeah, but when you say things like a preacher's daughter, like even the preacher's daughter was like the most, the one out there doing the most. Like she was definitely going to parties and doing all the things and trying to break all the rules. But it was harder to be a medicine man's daughter because everybody had higher expectations for you in Native community, especially if you live here. It was hard, but I am very grateful because it allowed us to be able to help others and to be leaders in our own way and to be helpful to ourselves, like in our family. We're so close to one another and we're always protective of one another. And I mean, it was hard, but I wouldn't change it.
Awesome. I must say your mother is one of the strongest people I think I have ever met. And for perspective, I probably met Martina, maybe when I moved from Hawaii back to South Dakota when I was first going back to finish school. And I can't recall actually how we met, but it was I didn't realize it at the time. The older I get and the further I get in my career and serving the communities and the relatives that I serve, I guess I didn't even realize your family was so important to your community, to your culture. Because even when I met you, just a lonely old white kid popping up on the reservation to show up and see a Sundance because Martina invited me to the first Sundance, and it was just amazing. I mean, your mom had everything in order and she was kind of running the troops or marching everybody to make sure, everybody had everything that they needed. But at the same time, I mean, a very loving family. You guys are very close. I hear some of the stories and, when we connect from time to time about what's going on back there, I'm just amazed. So my hat's off to your mom. She's just an amazing person. And I thoroughly enjoy saying hello to her whenever we're back there. So yeah, you just come from a great family, but I can understand that would be a little challenging. So your dad is Richard Moves Camp, and your mother's name. What's your
Arvella.
mom's name? Arvella. That's right. Arvella. And you have 4 sisters and a younger brother,
Yes.
and you're the oldest of the family.
Yes.
Yes.
The second mom.
Interesting, right? So you kind of order the troops and keep everybody in line because you have that as part of the family hierarchy as well. That's really amazing. So can you talk a little bit about some of the cultural things that you touch base on, like sweats? I'm sure a lot of the listeners, I mean, they're coming because they're really not familiar with American Indian Alaska Native culture or traditions or that kind of stuff. Can you speak on any of that?
Yeah. Like I said, when you grow up in this life or, with a traditional family, all of these things are just second nature. We know that we can turn to nipi or sweat whenever we need to. And when we feel like we need that stronger support, I know we can be supportive with one another by just being present and just listening to each other. But sometimes when we take sweats and we're all there for one another, it just feels a little bit more like there's like a strength that's behind it and support that comes with it. and being able to know that we're all praying for each other and we can all sit together and just be supportive and listen to the words that we have to let the person who needs it know that, we're all here and we hear them and that we're praying for them too. I think that we had a lot of challenges too, and that we go through as family, and that, life happens and life happens to us too. And we definitely turn a lot to our culture and definitely um, just come together and always rely on each other because, when you have 5 girls and 1 son and then they have children and it's like already when we all get together, there's like 18 of us. So our family get-togethers are very never a dull moment. We love it. We love having birthdays together. We love having wets together and everything because it's just what makes us feel close and makes us feel supported. I know our nieces and nephews find it really hard because it's not just one mom and auntie. They have 4 other moms who are just constantly texting them and making sure that they're doing well. And I know it overwhelms them and they don't like us to post about them, but we're just so proud of them that they're doing really good things out there in the community. It makes us feel good when our nieces and nephews make choices for themselves that help them pave their path. And it also includes their culture. So it's like, okay, you feel good that what you're teaching them is the right way because they're all making those decisions, and not saying that they make great decisions all the time, but it's just that they too are learning and they know that they can always come to us whenever they need us and they need support. And my brother, he's the only guy with like 5 sisters. So he is the most patient man ever. And he definitely knows how to be there for each of us because, sisters always don't get along all the time. But he's able to make sure that everybody feels supported and everybody feels heard and they're validated. He's such a good guy, and he's a really big part of keeping our traditional things going within our family. And he loves to sing powwow music and Sundance songs. That's his connection to other communities and other tribes because he makes those connections through music and being able to say like, I can help you write a song in your language. I appreciate that about him. I appreciate that he loves to be there for the people in that way. I feel we're very strong as a family unit.
That is awesome. So you're talking about the culture. Does the culture find its way into the school system down there?
Yes.
It does. So it's kind of a focal point of the way, you know, education is delivered.
It is because a lot of the reservation schools, they have Lakota classes, they have Lakota language classes, they have Lakota arts and crafts classes, culture, history, tribal government. It's definitely included within the school system. They have buffalo kills where the kids participate. A lot of them have sweat lodges at their schools. Community and culture advocates come in and, tell about their teachings, do storytellings and teach the kids how to make skirts and drums and a lot of things. I feel like it's welcomed and it feels good because, the kids definitely are learning. They're not without having exposure to the culture, which I feel like it gives them at least a connection if they are not getting it at home.
Yeah. It's interesting because, where I'm working at right now, one of the organizations is an urban tribal health program. And we serve a lot of the American Indian, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiians here in LA County. And a lot of our people, they are 1 generation or 2 generations removed from the relocation. And because of that, many of them don't have a strong connection to their culture. A few do, but resources, limitations, and all that stuff. But when I go to South Dakota, when I'm with the people out there, it just feels different. And I think one of the reasons why it feels different is because a lot of that culture is how you live. I mean, you hit on something. And a couple of days ago, I was talking with, she sits on the National Indian Health Board, and she said something very similar to you. She's like, we don't know any different. This is just another day for us. It's just ingrained in our being. It feels good to me to see that some tribes, some families have that close connection, but then I just feel so bad for the ones that don't have that access or don't have that accessibility or haven't been raised in that way. Do you think that having it as a way of your life or as a way of life out there for your people is the reason behind that? I mean, why you guys are so close, why it's palpable when you go back there and you can see tangibly that that infusion exists?
I mentioned before, like, that there's some people within our tribe, like even in our town, that have never been to a sweat or have never been to a Sundance. And maybe the only part of their culture that they take part in are powwows, which is like, to me, I feel like is ceremony in itself, because there's a lot of healing that goes along there and a lot of togetherness and all of that stuff at powwows. But I feel like if it should be introduced to them in a very positive way and in a way that they feel comfortable and they feel safe, because a lot of people who are coming to ceremony circles, they're coming in sometimes in the most desperate ways, where they are suffering from, like I said, substance abuse and alcoholism, and they want to quit. And sometimes being connected to their culture, just having something to lean on and having something to turn to and saying, you don't have to. I'm not knocking church or anything, because I think church is a beautiful experience in itself too, if you find your place there. But I think that being able to know that you're heard, or that you can pray wherever you are and you can just feel heard in any space and you feel comfortable there. I think it takes somebody who is strong in their beliefs to help other people to feel safe and to feel comfortable in those ceremony circles. Sometimes it takes a lot for people to find their right ceremony family, because that's another thing too, is ceremony families, where you find your circle where you feel comfortable going and praying and just feeling that connection. I feel like sometimes when those other cultures and those other people who are part of the Relocation Act, they are introduced to the most common type of ceremony practices, which is the Lakota way, which is taking sweats and going to sundances, because they're more, I think, just common, but they probably don't realize like they have their own teachings they can be a part of. They're making a connection through somebody else's culture, which is totally okay. It's dipping their toe and being able to find their connection with their people, with the people. You meet a lot of natives from different tribes and they're like, oh, I go to Sundance and I do this. However, even though it wasn't part of their teachings, they participate in those types of ceremonies because they feel that connection and they feel like comfortable there and they feel safe there to pray with other people. So I feel it really depends on like how you're being introduced into those safe praying circles. Here, there's so many Sundances and so many people who are culture bearers. Like they just are inviting other people to come in. It's just your choice of like who you feel safe with and who you feel like you can be at your most vulnerable and humble self with. The tribes within South Dakota, some of them are more, you'll know when you go to different tribes which has more influence, because a lot of them have more church influences and some have traditional teachings that they feel that are more influenced. And on our reservation, it's more traditional, and there are churches here too, but I feel like our culture is definitely all over, and it is very helpful. It's very helpful to have that connection and to be able to teach our kids, like when you need somebody and you feel like you're alone, like you have so many people who want to help you, and teaching them how to smudge and teaching them that they can go to a sweat. You're not going to sweat to like see how much heat you can handle. It's making it a safe place for them, making it just feel comfortable for them to be able to turn to it too whenever they need to. I really do feel like it is inviting, and it makes you feel good every summer when we have our summer ceremonies. I do feel like we're very much inviting ceremony people.
I haven't been kicked off the Pine Ridge Reservation yet, though I have heard that some people have done that. It's really interesting and unique, your perspective. Maybe talk a little bit about, you kind of touched upon it, but I'd like to go a little bit deeper. Some of your closest friends were not traditional or not close to the tradition or the culture. How was that? I mean, did they sometimes use you and your family as a way to get messages across, or maybe a different perspective that isn't so formal, I guess would be a way to do it? Your dad has a presence around him, and he's a very respected man. So I can imagine that some people might feel, I mean, I know there's protocols and ways to approach a medicine man, but do they kind of use you or use your family as kind of a half step towards getting the answer? Or does that happen? Or is that not even a dynamic that even exists?
My friend circle definitely didn't grow up going to ceremonies. So they did always have a lot of questions. They did have like, what do you do? Why do they do this? Why do they turn the lights off? So they did have a lot of questions. And when I was younger, and I had told you before, it was like, okay, whenever you explained it, because this is just what happens. We never questioned it because it's like every Christmas you put up a Christmas tree. We never asked why do we put up a Christmas tree? It just happens. It's just like when people start cooking and all of this other stuff, and it's like gets close to time, we know that there's ceremonies going to happen and all of this other stuff. We never questioned why. We never questioned how come 405 tobacco ties. We never questioned why sacrifices had to be made. And we never ask those questions of all the things that happened. And to be able, and then you automatically become the spokesperson for a ceremony. And then I'm like, oh my God, like why? And then you have to go to your dad and your mom. Okay, so why does this happen? And then they tell you, and my mom and dad, luckily, they have patience for all of us and being able to tell us the reasons behind things. I hope I'm carrying that message back to my friends in the way that my mom and dad taught me. Then they'll come back with like, but why though? How come? And I'm like, dang, I have no idea. Like I wasn't prepared fully. But I think when we were younger, my friends made me question a lot of the things that I just felt like were second nature to us. And we just never questioned it because it just happened. You just grow up in it. You just never asked how come or anything. Then it was like, why does that happen? It makes you feel like, geez, should I be ashamed of this happening? I don't even know. You don't know shame in your culture or anything, but it was like, well, that's weird that happens. So that's weird that you guys do that. And so it doesn't make you feel confident in telling the reasons why you do these types of protocols within ceremony. But as I got older and now that I understand more, and then my friends are in the places where they do want to participate in the sundances and they do want to participate in ceremonies and sweats, it makes you feel good. It makes you feel good that they want that connection and that you're the person that they come to be able to have those connections to ceremony. And I'm like, yes, come to Sundance, come to ceremony. Yeah, let's go have sweat because you could just have it at any time. You have sweat in your backyard and you could just get it ready. And that the whole process of building a sweat and preparing rocks and making ties, tobacco ties, just doing all that stuff is also a ceremony. But at the same time, you're visiting and you're feeling that connection too with your family. That's a ceremony in itself. I'm so happy that my friends want to be a part of that, because it's like you want that connection like I had my whole life, and you see it as a safe place and you see it as inviting, and that it makes you feel good because it does feel good. It does feel good to have that prayer and to feel heard and to hear the songs. Everybody is struggling just like you and needs prayers just like you. I always want to encourage everybody to go often and to not just go when desperate times call for it. You should always go to sweat when it's available to you and it's a safe place to be in. Just always participate. So you know that you have familiarity with being a part of that circle and having that connection, not just with the whole ceremony part of it, but the people, because the people are also what makes the ceremony. And I value my Sundance ceremony family and my whole ceremony family. You've known these people and the new people that come in, and it's just this connection that just makes you feel whole. And it's sad when they have to go home, but you know that everything's going to be okay because we prayed so hard for each other. we prayed so hard for them and their family and whoever else that they were out there needing prayers for. I think that the whole connection to community is so needed for you as an individual looking for that, for those prayers to be a part of the ceremony. So, and my friends, they definitely feel it too. And I think that they are just grateful to be a part of it and they look forward to it every year. It makes me feel good for them too, because I'm like, yes, they are finding that connection too finally. And it feels good to be able to provide that space for them to be a part of.
That is awesome. So do you find you're in the school system, so you're connected to the children? Are the kids that are coming to school, are they coming with a lot of that understanding? Are they closer to maybe their culture or those connections as human beings than our age were when we were going through school? Do you notice a difference?
I feel like they definitely get the teachings. Like if they are there that day and there's like a ceremony going on, they definitely are being exposed to those ceremonies. It feels good because we have our security Elroy, he puts like a smudge bowl right by the door. And everybody who walks in, non-native, native, kindergarten to seniors, like seniors in high school, they all come in and they all smudge off. So even that, they know that they're starting their day off in a good way. And seeing little tiny guys just going over there and just smudging themselves because they know that they're cleansing themselves as they come in through our door, and hope we're all praying that they'll have a good day and that whatever's going on at home, they leave it at home and they're coming here feeling good and feeling like they are in a safe space at school. But I really do feel like if they are not getting it at home, because like I said before, a lot of our students don't come from like traditional families, and they come from maybe church family, church background, or no exposure at all, and they're getting it there. It's a variety of walking life of exposure to the culture. They sing in the morning. We have a morning prayer, and that we have kids who sing songs in elementary. There's a drum that happens in the morning, and then middle school, high school, it has a drum in the morning that sings prayers, and they say a prayer and they sing songs. We have a big group of boys singing and a big group of girls participating and not being ashamed. I feel a long time ago, a lot of people just were not jumping up to the opportunity to sing behind the drum or to be a part of the drum. So it makes my heart feel good to like see so much young women standing behind the drum and participating in that. And whenever they ask for singers, you have like a big old group of kids who just like will say, okay, I'll do it. I'll be there. And then they have their whole group that sings with them. And to me, it's like, okay, you are providing all these moments of where they can, show that their connection to our culture by singing. And when a smudge bowl comes around, nobody refuses it, everybody smudges. I feel like these kids have a lot more sensitivity to it, and they're a lot more open to it, and they want to go and they want to participate. Oh, there's a buffalo kill, we get to help butcher, okay, yes. They don't care if they're getting all bloody or anything. They're like, oh, I'm going to take buffalo meat back to my Gunchi's house, my grandma's house. I'm just so proud of this generation and how much they want to have that connection and how much our school is providing for them. And they could do it. They could do it on their own, and they don't have to have an adult say, you need to sing this flag song, or you should go do this. You have kids who volunteer their time to do that.
That's awesome. Having such a close culture, a close connection as the kids are going through the school and playing basketball and having a lot of friends from Pine Ridge and those areas who were some of the best basketball players I think I've ever played with. But there's something to be said about when they leave that environment and go to college for a year and that grounding isn't there. And they often find themselves in an environment that's unfamiliar to them without the support of the people or the support of the culture. And 9 times out of 10, they don't last very long. And because that's missing, they end up going back. Do you still see a lot of that in the youth that graduate, go off to college and come back, or are they going and staying?
I definitely do see that. I see a lot of our kids who go and experience college for like a year or a semester, and then they come home and you ask them what it was. And sometimes it is about money and not being able to pay the tuition. And then the other instances is that they are with people that are not like them. Like the confidence level of the whole experience, they just feel like very homesick. And I feel like back then we didn't provide a lot of opportunities to have exposure to college experiences, like going to summer camps and going to programs like the 7th Gen program where they have Hill City, and being able to have them participate in those little things that help them be away from home for a little bit and then come back.
As you were explaining that, it became very clear to me that you're right where you need to be. The way that you were raised and the advocate that you had to be for your family is what you are helping those kids with, that you're teaching, and really on a macular level, when they leave the reservation and go experience these wonderful things, you've prepared them in much the same way that your parents prepared you, by being there for the questions and helping them to be a strong and healthy advocate for the people. It's just amazing. You're in a beautiful place. Well, Martina, it's been an absolute joy to hear about your story and for your candidness and the perspective that a lot of us don't get to see, and many of us don't even know exists. You are a true champion for those children that you serve, and I know you're going to do wonderful things along this path and this journey to enhance social work and teaching. Thank you so much for your time, and I really appreciate spending the time with me. You have a wonderful day.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Truth as Medicine. Be sure to join us for new episodes dropping about as often as I can interview people. Work has been really interesting and exciting with all the wonderful things that we have going on, but I'll keep interviewing people if you'll keep listening. If you have comments, questions, or guest recommendations, we'd love to hear from you. Reach out anytime at truth@indigenous.health. Until next time, thank you for listening and walking this path of healing and truth with us.